back in the little red tractor that's not mine and get back to spraying. And actually, you know what I can do is, this one is complete. We can get paid. Yes. Okay, things are getting good. And I do want to buy one of these very soon. Load it with lime and lime all 3 of my fields. I don't know if the problems with precision farming have been addressed as far as lime spreading is concerned, but at this point we're going to do it because it's going to improve yield, even if it doesn't pan out for precision farming. Some things just need to be done. But I want to spread lime on the field before I plant the grass, so our little case tractor is just going to have to sit there for most of the day. Probably all of the day. Well, I don't know. We're at 45%, which is 4.5 pallets of fertilizer when we started this. We're going to have to keep an eye on how much we get done when we run out. Because when that happens, actually, to heck with that. That piece is so short, it's not worth it. Okay, this is the fertilization equipment that was donated to get this field done. I should be driving down the tram lines if this was right. So tram lines don't necessarily line up with the contract equipment that you have been given. Ooh, cold tea. Anyway, how are we doing? It is 10:30. I did start around about 8:30 today. Let's see, yeah, we're 3 minutes short. 3 minutes short. Yeah. Yeah, so I was about a minute short, a minute late this morning. Not bad going. So, yeah. Yeah, but my general opinion of a lot of politicians these days, they seem to be of the opinion that a certain Austrian painter had a really great plan. Not necessarily in all the people he executed, but how to control his population and how to run their countries. And the whole point of the British Online Safety Act is for the government to spy on their people and to instill fear into them if they do stuff that the government doesn't like them doing, which is frankly ridiculous. And it was really funny to see Donald Trump was over in Scotland. I believe he was opening a new golf course over there, and taking time out with the British Prime Minister. And he did have a really big dig at Mr. Starmer and said, you know, we value free speech, and Starmer's looking really uncomfortable and just says, oh, we have free speech over here. It's like, no, you don't. And he's made that claim again this week, you know. Oh, yeah, Britain is very proud of its free speech. We're just trying to prevent people get upset by words that people use. Basically, we're trying to stop you upsetting us by criticizing what we're doing. It's like, yeah, that's not a good thing, guys. That's not free speech. Free speech is I'm allowed to say whatever I like. And if you find that offensive, that's your problem, not my problem. Unless I'm intentionally trying to be offensive, in which case it can be my problem. Like a lot of left-leaning comedians in the US are intentionally offensive to certain members of the population. I mean, Bill Maher, I have not liked Bill Maher since I discovered him, because he goes out of his way to just be horrible to people that he doesn't agree with. Now, the interesting thing is he's had a little bit of an epiphany lately and realized that a lot of the Democratic politicians in the US are well, let's say they would consider him to be a right-wing extremist these days, because of he's still holding left-wing opinions, mildly left-wing opinions, but a lot of Democrats have gone so far left that he's way over in, what they consider to be right-wing crazy land, which is weird. There's also, on that count, over the years, I've come across a bunch of commentators, usually on YouTube, who will put forward their ideas, and a lot of them in the past have been left-wing, except they've stayed where they are, and left-wing has gone further left and left them in the middle, effectively. I mean, you look at Tulsi Gabbard. She's a Democrat. Not anymore, because her views do not align with what the Democrat Party feel today. And there's a whole bunch of others. But these guys were very much of the opinion that if you believe in God, you're insane. And, the premise is I don't believe in God, so, if you believe in a fake mystical being, then you must be crazy, and anything you say must also be crazy. Now, over the last 15 years or thereabouts, 20 years even, these guys who would go out of their way to insult anyone who was a Christian have kind of mellowed out. They've started listening to what people were saying 20 years ago who were Christians, and the Christians were coming out and saying, if you take this path, it's going to end up really badly. And this is why. And they've actually started listening to the argument rather than the person. And it's like, these people aren't dumb. They might believe in God, I might not believe in God, but in all other aspects, they're not actually stupid. And they do put together a very coherent argument, especially when you look at where the left-wing governmental parties are today. A lot of the time, Christians have been warning, this is where the country's going if we don't change course. And now we're there. And it's like, they actually warned us. maybe they're not dumb. And a couple of them are actually, at least one of them, he's decided he was born in a Catholic family. And he's now decided he went to church because of his niece's christening or something along those lines. And he was to be one of the godfathers. So he went to church for that. But since then, he listened to what the priest was saying and has decided, hey, this guy's not actually stupid either. And so he now goes to church. He apologized to Christians in general for disparaging their beliefs because before he even went to church, because he realized actually I shouldn't discount your arguments just because you believe in what I believe is a mystical fairy in the clouds. And I've heard that from at least 3 of these commentators that, maybe I was wrong about not listening to you. You're not going to persuade me God exists, but, I was wrong. One of them's gone so far as to say we need more Christianity in the world, but I'm not a Christian. But he looks at the Christian religion and says, if you follow the laws of Christianity, it fosters a cohesive community. You look at countries that have built large civilizations, and they have defined laws. I mean, obviously, Greece was before Christianity came out, but they had clearly defined rules of society that if you follow them, you can build a big society. Rome did the same thing. Most of Europe did the same thing. I mean, yes, you have the British Empire, but you also had the Spanish Empire and the French Empire. They colonized around the world, and everywhere they went, they might not have been very good people to the natives, but they built. And you look at countries that never had big civilizations. They have the technology trappings of what the Europeans brought to them. Some have managed to hold on to them. Others have turned into tribal warfare and their countries have collapsed. But it's the rule, it's the laws of the nation. And as soon as you stop following those laws, your civilization generally collapses. If nobody respects life, if nobody respects anybody else, people are selfish. They do what they want for their own betterment and couldn't care less. They'll even step on people to prevent them succeeding. And it's just not a good thing. And as I said, this guy has said, I'm not a Christian. I don't go to church. But I think we need more Christianity in the world because it fosters a thriving civilization. I mean, you look back at Zimbabwe and they did the we're going to steal all the land from the farmers and chase them out of the country. And then years later, they came back with, well, the people we gave the land to don't have a clue how to grow stuff, and we're all starving. And, the Zimbabwe famines were generally nothing to do with you can't grow anything. They were more to do with the people who own the land now don't know how to grow anything. Similar in South Africa at the moment. The Boer farmers settled there decades ago, nobody wanted the land because you couldn't grow anything in it. And they persevered and made the land fertile. They are incredible farmers, but South African governments taking their land and in some cases encouraging natives to kill them off. South Africa is going to end up with a big famine. Nobody's going to get fed. And Donald Trump's already said he's not going to help South Africa while they are persecuting their people. You know, it's not good. And the problem is it's the people who live there that suffers, not the politicians who are stealing everything in sight. There's a tiny bit there I'm not going to bother with. That's the next one. But anyway, that's enough political talk for now. Yeah. I've even got a story about how incompetent the American government is. I think it was back in the 70s, maybe. There was a brothel in Nevada that wasn't paying taxes. So the government took over the brothel and tried to run the brothel and made a loss running a brothel. How the hell do you make a loss running a brothel? Don't know, but the US government managed to do that. So eventually they went to the owners of the brothel across the way and said, can we sell you this brothel and you can run this one? And you know, the owners of the other brothel said, sure. So they took over the government brothel and it's very lucrative now. But it's like, yes, when people say the government couldn't organise a party in a brewery, well, they can't even organise a party in a brothel. So, yeah, that's unfortunate. I heard that story back in early 2000s. At that time I lived in California, so Nevada's next door. Yeah. Governments can generally provide services, but the biggest thing the government does is provide money to their friends, purportedly to perform a service, but they don't actually insist on it. So it's just a scheme to enrich themselves and take taxes to do, you know, to move the money around. And also to bribe the poor people to vote for them again. And I would hazard that this is why the Democrats are a little bit upset at the moment, because Donald Trump is closing down all of their money laundering operations and what have you that keep their friends happy, that keep the donations coming in. And their friends aren't happy, so the donations aren't coming in. Because a lot of the time the donations are coming from the money the government already gave them. I don't know, it's weird. You look back, and the king had all the money and his advisors, you know, landowners had all the money. The king decided who got the land. And he could turn up one day and tell you, yeah, your land, it's actually my land and I'm taking it away from you and I'm going to give it to Bob over there. And Bob can have that land. And the villages on that land and collect taxes from the villages on that land. But the king was not necessarily out to destroy the peasants. He had everything he wanted. Whereas today, I mean, you look at some of our politicians, they go into political office with nothing. They get $250,000 a year for being in political office, and 22 years later, they're $120 million in the bank, and it's like $250,000 times for that's $1 million a year if you don't spend anything. How do you have 200 million in 20 years? The math does not work. Oops, find out, dude. And still no train. Good. Okay, so I would think I want about four things of stuff. So let's pull in here and get 4 things of stuff. Buy that. Yes. Close. Oh, my mouse. Come on. Go there, go there, go there. Good. And get this refilled again. Anyway, that's enough depressing stuff for now. In other news, I think this afternoon I'm going to have to clean the water in the fish tank, because that's kind of getting, well, I think the filter's started to get a little bit clogged. It's making a little bit of noise yesterday, but I think, I tend to give the water a good clean out at the beginning of the month. I probably should have done it last month. Train. Or last week. But we'll do it this week. It's just a tiny switcher. With the cars. Up you go. Ding, 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 ding.